Hello and welcome everybody to today's interview series with Intuitive Growth with Oracle and Tarot Cards. My name is Jessie-Sarah, and today joining us is Lisa Winters, who has a very interesting dynamic how she uses tarot cards. You are a tarot
Tarot
reader.
cards.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Welcome. How are you doing today?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for having me here. I'm excited to have a chat with you about tarot cards because they are a passion of mine. So yeah.
You've been reading tarot cards for quite a while. You said you began when you were around 14 years old. How did you get introduced at such a young age?
Mm. Yeah, so I did. I have been reading since I was 13, 14 years of old. I had got my first Rider Waite tarot deck at that time. To be honest, I don't know what drew me other than I just knew that I wanted a deck, and I saved up my money and went and bought one and started reading. And much like everything else in my life, I'm very self-taught, and
Mm.
so I started teaching myself to read tarot cards, and so mostly for myself because that was a long time ago when I did that, and not a time when I think these kinds of types of spirituality tools were mainstream. So yeah, I kept it kind of hidden under my pillow from my mother, and would read my tarot cards at night, and yeah, that's where it all got started.
Beautiful. I found it interesting how you shared that reading tarot cards helps you be a better vet and a better person. Was there something in your life in those young years that the tarot cards were just supporting you through, or what makes you say that?
Um, I think what the tarot cards did for me was truly teach me how to tap into my own inner knowing and my own intuition, and really listening to my higher self and listening to my guides, and then all of a sudden it's like when you kind of start to have that connection, then the synchronicities start to present themselves, and you start to see everything kind of in a different light. And so I think it just kind of started to um, concrete everything that I was already feeling, and not quite knowing where it was coming from to kind of unfold in front of me. And so, yeah, so I think it started to, do that for me as far as just that connection. And it's only been till recently that I've been all of a sudden, through a course that I did, put the connection of doing tarot cards and animal communication together, because I've been doing animal communication since when before I can remember, and all of a sudden it was like, oh, here's now come kind of full circle again, to bringing those two things together. So that's been, I think, the icing on the cake as far as my journey, using cards and having done animal communication since I was little. So
Beautiful. I love that your dogs are communicating with us as you're bringing them into the
yes,
story right now.
I know. Yes, it never fails. I go live, and he wants his voice to be heard also. So he will hopefully settle himself down here in a minute and go back to laying down quietly. So
So, when you say that you have been doing animal communication for as long as you can remember, was
mm.
that really you becoming aware of this other sense that you had prior to using the tarot cards?
um I think it was the animal communication led me to the tarot cards. So knowing that I was doing something that I didn't quite understand, and I became realized that not a lot of people around me did it. When I was little, I believed that it's just everyone did it, and I wasn't anything different. But then when I was made to be realized that actually that wasn't the case, then it kind of started to open my mind up and go, okay, well, if this is something that I can do, what else can I do? And so then that was kind of the next step, was to then reach for the tarot cards, and they made sense. And so it was just, as they were coming down, I could just kind of start to understand what it was they were trying to say, without really knowing and not reading the book. So I think it was the animal communication that led me to the tarot.
Beautiful. That's such a wonderful reminder that certain things that seem so natural for us, they're natural for us because that's our path. And following it is more natural than just trying to fit in with everyone else around us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like I said, I thought everyone did it, and then I was acutely made aware that no, that wasn't actually the case. So yeah.
Was there a specific experience when you say acutely made aware?
Yeah, I just remember I was about 7 years of age, and I was watching a movie, and the young girl in the movie was speaking to the horse, and she was speaking to the horse telepathically, and the horse was responding to her. And I was kind of like, all of a sudden there was that realization. It's like, well, hang on a second, I do that. That's what I do. And I remember turning to the adult that I was sitting there with. We were with family and friends, and I said to him, I was like, oh, I do that. I can do that. And they, then they looked at me and they're like, yeah, you're right. But, you really don't talk to animals, but that's great that you think so, but you don't really. And it was just all of a sudden, it's like, well, hang on a second. I know I do that. And here's, I've got, an adult telling me, no, you don't do that. But that was the realization of, oh, not everyone does this. So, yeah.
Oh, wow. You must be a very brave person for continuing to keep searching for these things that call to you, despite that
Yeah. Yeah, well, it made sense though to me. I wasn't going to not do it because it is it's what I did, and I just probably didn't talk about it as much as I was growing up, or when I would say things, I would kind of say it a bit flippantly, as if I was making it up, and people would just laugh and go, oh, okay, and then move on. And then all of a sudden something would happen and it would be true, and they'd be like, as I grew older, the people around me started to realize that, hang on a second, you do, will predict things or say things, or can say something that this is what's going on with that horse, and or that dog, and then all of a sudden it gets confirmed. And so they definitely started to realize that as I hit my teens and became an adult, that and felt confident to just say it as it was. So.
Beautiful. So how you had that kind of experience with the animals of you going, oh wow, like I do that. Have you had an experience with tarot cards that as you were learning and especially teaching yourself, was there a specific experience or moment that you're like, oh my word, they're real, they're working?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, definitely when I would sit and do readings and connect into them, and I would see things, or things would unfold for me, I guess, of, things that were going to be happening, or things that were occurring around me that no one had said, but was actually occurring. And so then I would, do a reading for myself, and this information would come forward, and then I would bring it, and I'd ask my parents, so, what about this? Because, I would say I had a dream, or, something like that. And they would be like, oh yeah, that's come true, or yes, that is what we're doing, or, yes, that's what's happening, those kinds of things. I mean, it was a big one was, my parents were going to be splitting up, and they never did, but they were in that process. And I remember the cards showing me that, and for me that hadn't been presented to me or my sister, as far as saying that they were potentially going to live in separate homes or what have you. So it just, yeah, there were certain things where I would just see it and it would come through, and then yeah, I would ask and it would be true. So and that was just it. Again, it's that knowing that you just start to trust it and believe it, and keep going with it.
Was this, it sounds like you have a very deep trust when you talk about just listening to that inner knowing and those inner calls. Was that trust just developed over time as you had all of these experiences, or is it something you've had to really work on?
I think it's both. I've always had a very strong sense of self and um, and who I was, and I would go against the norm even as a young kid. But the mind likes to doubt what stuff comes through, so you have that kind of continuous dialogue of, oh, maybe not. um, so yeah, so I think over time you learn to continue to trust and trust. And I think also there have been points through my life where I haven't done tarot and I haven't done animal communication, where I've focused on other things or done other things, and it always comes back into my life. It's like the realigning of the path. It always comes back. And so it's like now, as I head into my 50s, it's like, okay, this is really part of me, and I can't keep ignoring it. So now I just need to embrace it and go with it. So yeah, so I do think it's both.
Beautiful. I love these just little takeaways that you offer just in what you're sharing. Just that, remember, if it keeps coming back, it's got a message for you. If it keeps coming back.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm very curious, when reading for a human, or like how you said, you didn't know anything about your parents, but then you saw it happen. With humans, you can get a little bit more feedback than in the same way with animals. So is there a different feeling? Is there like a different process you do between reading cards for humans versus animals?
No, there isn't, for me, because I use my level of animal communication to be able to interpret through the cards. So for doing pet tarot, readings, I will connect with the animal prior to the reading, and what comes through as the cards are drawn, and the validations then come from the owner. So the messages will resonate with what's going on, or and these animals are not animals that I know, so I can't be able to begin to say what their favorite things are, and what their passion is for life, and what they see as being their self-worth and their job. And then all of a sudden the owners are like, oh no, that's what they do, we go and do this every week, and we go do tracking, and that's their job. And so, and it comes up in the cards, and then the message comes through from the animal. And I do the very same thing really with people's readings. The cards are the tool to make that connection and interpretation, and what gets channeled or downloaded through comes as with that. So I do it the same way. I just use two different decks of cards.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Is that just because you enjoy the different cards? Do you feel you have a different relationship with them?
I have a different relationship with my two decks, and it allows me to be separate, if that makes sense. So it's as if when I connect with my one tarot deck that I use for my pet tarot readings, then that's what it's about. And that connection with my guides and with the animals and with the owners' guides and them, all of that, that's the going neutral aspect of it. Whereas the other deck, the Mythic Tarot deck that I use for doing people's readings, is also, it allows me to get that connection. So I just find that that's easier for me, and I don't get the messages and the referencing muddled up.
Beautiful. There's a fun question I ask, and since you use the two different decks, I'm going to ask you to answer for each deck. And that is, if you had to describe your relationship with your tarot decks, what would it taste like?
What would it taste like? Okay. So for my pet tarot, I used the Wild Unknown. It would taste like, it would taste like a really good cheeseburger. It's quite meaty and dense and have a lot of oomph, but quite, quite satisfying and quite juicy. And yeah, so definitely be a really good cheeseburger. For the Mythic Tarot, for when I do people's readings, it would definitely taste like probably like a really good sundae, like a really good hot fudge sundae. So it's quite decadent and it's quite sensual and it's quite soft, and yeah, it's like this kind of comforting feeling of, being all wrapped up, and it gives you, good mojo kind of thing. So yeah, that's what it would taste like. A good
That is
hot fudge sundae.
beautiful. What good descriptions. It's beautiful to see how the variety that's available between the two decks.
Mm.
Would you be able to share a nugget of wisdom? I find it valuable how you shared the distinction between with you keep the two cards separate, and that allows you to not get the imagery and the symbols confused and such. Could you speak into that a little bit? Perhaps if somebody has got these talents and they're growing them or unaware, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I'm a firm believer in what I call it, and as I teach it, as a referencing system. And so I believe that when the messages are coming through, and when our interpretation is coming through, it comes through in the path of least resistance. And so if we don't try and make it more complicated than that, then those messages come through quite clearly, and you can learn then what your reference is for certain aspects of messages, or that those kind of downloads that are coming through, that you can then portray to the person you're reading for, whether it's their pet or for themselves. And that's just, what I call that kind of referencing system, through the path of least resistance. And I think that it is definitely a practiced. You gotta do a lot of practice with it to become confident in what you're getting. And I've now learned that if I get a message through, and I, seeing a message of as an example, as a lammy, and I know it's like you say lammy, it's like, well, what does that mean? It could mean anything. But for me, my referencing is that's a very soft toy, that is, a beloved toy of a dog. And so my intuition or my guides, that comes through very quickly, and then I can elaborate through that referencing system. So it just makes the connections a lot quicker and a lot easier and a lot more trustworthy, I think, when you start to learn to trust in that. I think that's what people, when they're first learning how to do these things, is trusting in the information they're getting, whether they're hearing it, seeing it, feeling it, knowing it. It's trusting in that they're not just making it up in their head.
Definitely. Yes. And that's a good point that you point out, that yes, you're seeing the lammy. However, it's not the lammy that's the message, it's what that association to you is.
Exactly.
Definitely. How do you use how have you used the tarot cards to deepen your understanding of your own associations?
I've used the tarots through doing my own journey work, and so on a daily basis, drawing a card as far as focus and helping me to look at my own things that come up, whether it be, you know, my own issues, my own shadow work, my own, you know, wins, my own insecurities, in those kinds of things. And I think it just helps me bring it to the forefront, shine that bit of light on it, and go, oh, okay, that's what, you know, this is. And using it as an aspect of meditation, to where you can, you know, work through what's resonating or not resonating, or why you're feeling like, oh shit, I want to run from that, or oh no, you know, that's a win, in my, you know, in my books. And so I think it's, you know, using it as a tool. I mean, that's what it is. It's a tool to connect to your higher self, your guide, you know, your counsel, whatever you want to call it, to do the work that you're here to do, whether it's the work on yourself, and or, you know, your sole purpose to be of service, you know, in the world. And I think it helps bring that to light. You know, you can use tarot cards to, you know, do a soul purpose reading, you know, to help get you focused, cluster, you know, it gets you very focused and very clear on what it is that you're wanting, your higher self is wanting, your unconscious, that you know, that all knowing that your conscious mind tries to keep at bay. So I think that they're great for that. And my mentor, Marina Lopez, you know, she has so eloquently put it as you know, the tarot, they're archetypes that have been with us for hundreds of thousands of years. They're archetypes that have been with us before time, you know, at the start of time. And so we all have in us this knowing, you know, and it's just about using these cards to bring up the remembering process of these archetypes, and what they're there to teach us about ourselves, not only, you know, as humans, and that kind of thing. And so trying to pass that on into the animal aspect, and interpreting it from an animal's perspective has been quite, you know, an interesting process, because, you know, it's easy for us as humans to, you know, put it all together, but to take a step and put yourself in the animal shoes and what the archetypes mean to them has been quite interesting, because, you know, it's not like you can go and take a course for that, because there is
definitely. And I don't want to assume, so this is a question. I'm guessing they don't see the world the same way we do. So how do the archetypes relate to them?
Yeah, they, like I said, like I use the archetypes of the pentacles, you know, so that's our earth element. And so obviously, like with people, you know, it's about our resources, it's about, you know, finances, it's, you know, about those kinds of things. From an animal's perspective, it's using the earth element, it's about their self-worth, it's about, you know, their actual, you know, bed in their house, and their food, the tangible kinds of things. It's about their job, it's about doing a job, their service to people, what they're worthy of and what they want to do. And so they do see it from a different perspective, but there is a similarity of needs, I guess, that we're all, you know, we all have that in us, that primordial reptilian brain, whatever you want to call it. And it's very much what connects us to the animals.
That's powerful. How you point out, you know, their self-worth and their service, because very often in language we think about these things once our primal needs are met. However, what I'm hearing you say is that's actually naturally a part of our primal needs as well.
Exactly. And you know, and they feel that and see that too. And I think sometimes we as humans, we lose perspective of that with animals, in thinking all animals just want to run free and be in the wild and do nothing. And in actuality, that's not the case. Animals have been domesticated with us for hundreds of thousands of years, and they've been domesticated with us to do for jobs, whether it's the the horse that pulls the carriage or pulls the plow, that does the field. I mean, that's their job, and they take that very seriously, and that their self-worth is quite important. And to say to that horse who takes that seriously as their job, to say, oh, we want you to go and be set free, they why would they sit there and go, why would I want to do this? That's not my job. My job is to help my human pull the plow and turn the farm and all of that kind of stuff. So I think sometimes we get lost in that. And I'm not saying that animals should be used for, as production or as beasts or those kinds of things, but there is an aspect of animals that, they do take their self-worth and their job very seriously. And I see a lot of behavior issues with dogs that revolve around that they don't have a job and they want a job. And so their bad behavior in their house, when they destroy things and tear things up, is their way of trying to tell their human, I need a job. And they're humans not hearing it. So
that is so sweet. That makes me think of my Labrador back home, Goldstein. My mom is a energy worker, and when she's on calls, as soon as the person on the other side is, they're really reaching an uncomfortable space, or something's coming up, he will. Labradors aren't small, and he's not a small Labrador either. Like, he's a big dog. He'll climb onto her lap so he can put his nose into the camera to get to the person.
Absolutely. And that's his job. So he wants to be part of that healing aspect, and he takes that very seriously. So absolutely, that's a great example of it.
That's so sweet. He needs an extra treat now.
Yeah.
That's so fun. You're sharing so many different valuable gems in this conversation. Thank you so much. I want to ask,
my pleasure.
What inside of support? So you're sharing a lot from your story and your personal journey, which is where I feel like people can mine those gems from. What inside of support do you have available to share for those who are choosing to strengthen their intuitive abilities through tarot cards? Like how you pointed out, it is a practice, learn those associations. What's something that if they're just at the beginning, or maybe it's come back into their life, as that was a good reminder, it comes back, that you feel like it's really valuable to keep in the forefront?
Trust. truly trust in what you're doing, and practice. And I mean, honestly, from my experience and where I've learned the most, is actually doing it, is doing the readings, putting yourself into the uncomfortable space of doing a reading for someone, because that's where you're going to get your validation, and that's where you're going to get your confidence. And I think and my mentor, Marina, and I know I've said this before, but she's instilled that, in that you will never be perfect enough. And so we sit there and we think, oh, I'm going to study, and as soon as I've learned all the meanings of the cards, then I'll do it. Or as soon as I've read all of these books, then I'll do it. They will never be enough. And so just jumping in and trusting in the process and trusting what you get, that's where you will learn. That's where sitting on the edge of fear is where the discovery is. And so when you jump in with that full trust and do the readings, whether the cards or not, you're going to start to learn to hear that intuition coming through, and you get the validation. You're going to get those, that validation back to you when you do it. So I'm a firm believer in, you know, you can take all the courses in the world and you can learn all the information, but it's never going to be as good as just doing it and sitting down and doing a reading. And, you know, whether it's for friends or family or your, you know, circle of friends on a Friday night, and pull them out and go, right, we're going to do 1-card readings, and or 2, you know, or 3-card readings, and just doing it for fun. And pretty soon it's like, oh shit, I'm getting some of this, and that confidence then just goes from there. So that would be my take home message to anyone who's getting started. Just do it.
I love that.
Don't be afraid.
Absolutely. Or as you said, even if you're afraid, you know you're on the edge of that discovery.
Exactly. You never learn until you take that step. You never know what's going to unfold in front of you. It's like you can, you know, I see it so many times, particularly when I teach animal communication, and people go, oh, I just need to read a little bit more of this, or I just need to, you know, practice. And it's like, doing it, putting yourself out there and saying, right, I'm open, my shingle is on the door and I'm open for readings. That's when you're going to get your practice. You know, hiding away and behind that closed door, you will never feel comfortable. You'll never feel ready enough until you just do it. And it was that way with doing the pet tarot. I mean, you know, I just said, right, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to do pet tarot readings. I don't know what the cards are going to mean for the animals, but I'll learn it as I go. So, and that's what I did. I started saying, right, who would like to have their pet tarot readings? So.
Oh, well done for following that, because we're getting a wonderful conversation from you following that. Gordon. Thank you.
Thank you.
As we head into our final questions, I'm really interested if there's a specific time that you did a card reading for an animal, or not even a card reading, maybe you were just communicating with an animal and they shared something that really challenged your trust. You had to really trust what you're receiving because it opened up an awareness that was new to you.
Well, that's a very good question. There's been a few times where the information that's come through has been quite confronting, because a lot of owners will, you know, want to know what you know, what's happened in their, you know, if they have rescue dogs, or, you know, what kind of you know, happened in their previous life before they come. And sometimes I will get you know, the images will come through, or I'll hear them talk about their stories. And I've had sometimes, you know, animals say to me, I don't want you to tell them this. And so to have to, that becomes quite difficult in, you know, in putting the trust of the animal, saying, you know, this is okay to share, but this is not okay to share. And having the owner go, well, what is it? And it's like, well, I can't share it. They've asked me not to. And to break that trust is to break that trust of communication. It's no different than, you know, having a private conversation with the person. And I think that can be really powerful in itself, because I once did break that trust, and that animal refused to talk to me ever again. And so it was really eye-opening in that, well, hang on, you know, they really do put their trust into us, or into me, to be their voice, and to respect their messages and respect their voice, and to not change the words, and not to you know, make it into something that it's not, or to not even say it. So that's been a really I think one of the hardest things for me to really understand and grasp, and respect that they do really have those really core hard, those really core feelings of certain things that is just not meant to be talked about or shared or that kind of thing. I don't think that's really answering your question very well, but it's it's just what has come through to be said.
Yes.
So I'm going to go with that.
A spark inside of
Yeah.
me. I'm curious if anyone watching had a different, spark from within from listening to that. I grew up with my earlier years was with Christianity. Grew up in a Christian household and reading the Bible, and the language in the Western Bible is that man was given dominion over the animals. And I feel like what you were just sharing there was really that reminder that might not be the truth.
No.
That they are their own
that is
soul,
not.
they are their own being, and honoring that is really powerful.
Yeah, and I think honoring what it is that they're here to teach us. I think they're here to teach us a lot about about humanity and love and coming from a place of love and living for the day and living in the moment, in the present, and all of those kinds of things. So that's fantastic.
Definitely. So thank you for allowing that to flow through. That was perfect.
Mm.
And before we ask our final question, when people go to the different links for your different platforms and the details of this video, what will they find? How will they gain access to you? Share.
Oh, thank you. So I have a business page, an animal communication business page, which there's information there. But it also, the big thing is to there's a link to join my group, my private group. And I've got lots of videos and talking about animal communication, and obviously sharing about my animal communication program, and obviously sharing about the pet tarot readings and those kinds of things. So that's where that is. It's interesting. The my people tarot readings haven't got a platform yet. It's in the works, but it's just been I've just been sharing with my private page, and I also have a mindset page that I put it through sometimes. So but I do share the human readings in my animal communication group too. So I guess that's probably the best place to get it. And there's lots of videos. I've done lives and stuff through there talking about animal communication and just pets in general. I mean, I'm a vet. That's what I do every day is I'm a veterinarian. So I'm just even talking about pet health and pet care and what the animals are trying to tell you when they're showing different symptoms. They're trying to tell you that they're not well, and a dog eating grass is not normal, and they're not being naughty. They're unwell, and it's just their way of telling you that they're unwell. So there's those kinds of things that are present there.
Sweet. I'm trusting that someone listening to this realizes that there is an opportunity for them to communicate more effectively with their animals, and that they go to your sites and connect with you and enhance that natural ability.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will be planning on early next year offering a pet tarot course, and so you can learn how to do pet tarot readings yourself, and learning how to actually use the tarot cards in doing readings as an additional tool for animal communication. So that's going to be coming up soon.
So exciting. Wonderful. What a good way to start 2021.
Yes, exactly.
Definitely. So this last question is really just bringing everything together. What about reading tarot cards as a way of being, that this is a natural part of you? What about that makes your heart smile?
I think what reading tarot is you can't make that shit up. It's like, that's what makes it, it's like when you have these readings and you're talking with the other person, and you're going through it, and it's unfolding in front of you. It's like you can't make it up. It's just like, how amazing is that we've randomly picked 10 cards, and it's completely encapsulated everything that's going on for a person in that time, and open doors, and giving them breakthroughs, and giving them the aha moments. It's like, you can't make it up. It's like, and that really, I think, that makes my heart smile, because it's such an amazing tool to help people get so clear on what they already know. Like, they already know it. It's already in them. They just needed something to bring it to the forefront, to get them to go, oh shit, that's what it's all about. That's what this has been beating me up against the head for the last 6 months. And those aha moments, I mean, those are like, those are gems. Those are just, they totally make you smile when they have the aha moments. Or, I mean, you get with the pet tarot readings, and owners are coming to you with concerns about their animals, as to why they're doing certain things, and we their pet shows them why they're doing it, and it unfolds. And it's like, you need to have these conversations, and they do, and then they send you a message, and they're like, it's like magic to them, because all of a sudden the destructive behavior stops, or their connection and the relationship goes to a completely different level. And that makes my heart smile, because all of a sudden they've opened that line of communication themselves. And it's not, I didn't do anything, I just kind of held space, and was a conduit, and gave them a bit of information. But they took that step and made that connection. So those are the things that, yeah, definitely make my heart smile, and make me keep doing it on a day in, day out basis. So
Beautiful. The enthusiasm was in every single word there.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, for sharing your time, and all of the valuable insights that you offered today, Lisa. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. I've absolutely enjoyed it. Yeah, it's been a real privilege and pleasure to chat with you about what it is that I do with tarot cards. So thank you so much for having me.
It's been a massive pleasure. And to everyone watching, thank you for sharing your time. Until next time, bye for now.